This is a fulfillment. Being here with you through this distance is a fulfillment of longing and of a dream that I would see the church, particularly the evangelical church, and this new emerging leadership begin to understand the wholeness of the gospel and understanding that justice was God's motivation for redemption. And for me to see you, this new generation of leadership emerge, give me such an absolute joy. And the very fact that it comes from a city where I was converted to Jesus Christ 54 years ago, and in a place where I went back there in 1982, and they embraced me, and the very church that you're in now was one of those churches and congregations that embraced me in that ministry. And now to see this new young, I call it post-race, people who have overcome and is overcoming some of the past, and seeing enrichment that diversity brings, instead of the fear of each other, hating each other based on race and nationality, but see that as a value and loving each other so that we can embrace the Great Commission that Jesus told us to do it in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and other parts of the world. And now we have the privilege to do all of that at the same time through the media. And so this is a dream come true. And I so respect and honor and feel like this has been a part of my real mission to see indigenous people come onto the scene, young people begin to lead the church, and to lead the church in the era of justice and recognition. So I'm just so thankful. And then to see this indigenous movement take place, and from each different congregation, that you can come together and worship together, plan together, and then begin to take on your city, and then to take on your region, and to take on your state, to take on your nation, and then to take on the world. That's the mission of the church. That's what Jesus said as we anticipated Pentecost, that ye shall be witnesses unto me in Jerusalem, in Judea, and in Samaria, and other parts of the world. And I'm saying we can do that now, all at the same time. And so I'm just absolutely thankful. I'm thankful that God did call me back to Mississippi. And he did over 22 years there. Helped me to try to follow him, understand some of his principles. Because I was living among the poor, I began to see how to begin to reach them. Because the great thing among the poor, they don't have assets. They move out of the community when they succeed and leave their poor brothers and sisters in that poverty there. And eventually the church moved out of that community. And then we begin to give them social services, many times absent of the gospel, absent of their longing. And then in that situation, we could see the need for a philosophy of the community development philosophy. Number one, we had to understand that we had to live among the people. Jesus incarnated himself as the Son of God, as Word made flesh, and he lived among the people. And that's how we came up with this whole idea of relocation. We needed to live among the people. We needed to go to the people, live among them, love them, plan with them, learn from them, start with what they know, build on what they have. And then the idea of the gospel and establishing of the church was raised up from that community, indigenous leaders, to both lead in that community, but also indigenous leaders who could grasp the totality of the gospel. Because he have left the gospel message unsaint. We are stewards of that message. And so it's developing the local and relocation and developing the church. And what I long for is to see this generation of young people begin to plant churches in the urban areas, go beyond just the social service that's included, but plant the body of Christ in those neighborhoods so that we can disciple and raise up those indigenous leaders. So the first area of development was relocation. The other one was reconciliation. It was assumed that the gospel of Christ could burn through racial and cultural barriers and to make us one. That's what Paul meant when he said, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation. And so we have a gospel that can burn through this racism. I'm glad we are seeing that. And that can reconcile people to God to each other. And then we begin to look at the poverty. People are poor because they don't have assets. They're in debt, they're enslaved. And so how can we, the church, the people of God, go in there, the community, and affirm the dignity of people, teach them how to pool our resources to the church and do other corporations, so we can build an asset redistribution in the neighborhood. And this is beyond money. You know, this is our big slogan, give them the fish and they eat for day. Teach them how to fish and they'll eat for life. That's a lie. Whoever owns the pond determines who eats fish. And so the idea then is to help the indigenous people develop the church and the hope and then job opportunity in those neighborhoods and communities. And I'm so delighted to see people embracing that. And so I welcome you, I honor you. And Celine represents that kind of ministry. And to see this spread across the United States and across the world. We are in a peak time. I expected more from the church than we are giving. But I believe that this generation, you represent a more holistic generation of people. And so my task to my life, I want to encourage you, call you out, see you take responsibility first for your own life, overcome sin and overcome sin guilt that brings victimization, and then reach out with the whole gospel for the whole world. I consider this an absolute privilege for me to be able to see this happening in a town, the city, Pasadena, that has been so good to me. And I would just like to say for this opportunity. So I just wish that all of you people in the San Gabriel Valley and in that surrounding area work together with those ministers that are reaching out to the poor press, who understand that just the absolute motivation for God's redemption. Thank y'all for listening to me. God's blessing be upon you.